What up guys, Justice here. This is the fourth and final guide of my Vorago Ultimate Guide series, focusing today on the Vitalis Rotation, where on phase 3, 4 and 5, Vorago unleashes blue clouds spawning 4 Vitalis if your team do not stand over their spawn points. I'm carrying out the role of melee base tank as you can see, however also covering trivia tips for those players who are DPSing and Mage Bomb Tanking. This guide is for high-tiered PVMers with previous Vorago experience, however, I have made it clear and objective for mid-tiered players to understand and utilize the tactics used. It reveals a unique method unheard of by many. The inventory you want to be taking are 6 Super Restore flasks. If you have Penance Aura, then these aren't even required. This is actually enough to take you over 2 to 3 kills. You want 1 Adrenaline Flask. You want your offhand Drygor Longsword. Preferably level 90 weaponry is definitely needed here. Rapiers just aren't good enough. Phoenix Necklaces, Overload Flask, Renewal Flask, Heal Runes, so you want to have Lunar Magic on, and you want to have Heal Other in your ability bar. I go through different abilities on previous guides again. I'm not going to go into that in too much depth here. Just watch my previous ones, which will be links in the description and also on annotations at the end of this video. I have the rest of my inventory with Rocktails and a spare yak pouch, as if you're going on constant kills, which this guide will definitely help you with, then you may forget to actually spawn a new yak pouch, and that can be extremely annoying, especially if you're mid-kill and you're running out of food. It's always helpful as well to have plenty of food to trade your teammates if it's needed. Now onto my loadout. I'm just going to go over this. Oh, that's not my loadout. Now onto my loadout. I'm not going to go into this in too much depth. As you can see, I've got Torva on, and that's because, especially on this rotation, you want to be DPSing as the Amelia. However, also Tetsu is fine. I've got my Saradomin's Whisper for critical bonus, my Fight Kiln for critical bonus, Sign of Life just in case, a Ring of Vigor, as I've made a guide on that, but it helps with max DPSing. Watch my previous guide on Scopulus Rotation. I actually go over exactly how to maximum DPS on phase 5. I've got my Penance Aura, Rage Fire Boots. I've also got my hands on a level 19 Malevolent Kite Shield, which is a reward from the Barrows Rise of the Six hard mode. Okay, on to the battle. For how to undertake phase 1 correctly and efficiently, review the beginning of my previous 3 guides. Links in the description below and embedded on annotations at the end of this video. Now let's get straight into it. Do not skip through, as trivia tips are embedded throughout. If you watch accordingly, you will succeed on your Vorago trips and justice will be served. Team size required, preferably 7 for this method, 1 Mage Bomb Tank in Virtus or Seasinger, 1 melee base tank, Tetsu or Torva, 5 Mage DPSs, at least 2 Seismic DPS and 3 Virtus within that. Your inventory and gear setup I've gone through at the beginning. Now on to actual phase 2 and the mechanics of how to complete it. Again, my previous 3 guides go into thorough detail around this phase. However, I am going to recap on the most important areas. There should be 3 Vokers. Any remaining DPSs should be backup Vokers. Everybody should be able to know how to Voke effectively in order to be an effective team. The first and second Voker takes 2 hits, or stomps from Vorago as it's also known as. On the first hit, use Freedom. The second hit, use Escape. Make sure you don't use a stun ability on Vorago near to when the Voking begins, otherwise you will not be able to use Escape, and will have to either run away, like I just did there, or absorb the damage, as I am now doing, both being detrimental to the functionality of this phase. After the third reflect, Vorago conceals himself and you're required to dual wield and deal enough damage as a team for a piece of the maul to fall off Vorago, as you'll see in a moment. Make sure to be overloaded at this point. It is absolutely vital to all be overloaded and to use maximum DPS in order for that weapon piece to actually fall off Vorago. If you don't deal enough damage, then you actually have to restart again. His life points bump up back to 75k from what I remember, and basically you have to go through another Voke and another Reflect, which obviously makes the kill a lot slower. The maul is actually used by the melee base tank, which is myself in this situation, at the end to actually take out Vorago, which you'll see on phase 5 if you've never seen that before. Now, as you can see now from these 2 phases, these are definitely the easiest phases across all rotations. They're both exactly the same across all rotations, very easy to actually get a hold of. Now, the Voking role, you really want to be learning how to Voke. If you join a team and they say, do you know how to Voke, can you be in the Voke order, and you go no, then straight away they're going to think that you're a noob, because essentially it's one of the easiest roles to actually carry out in terms of how to Voke. It's part of a role, but it's one of the easiest things to do. Now, a bit of breathing time before we actually start phase 3. Now, phase 3, I'm going to go over a very unique method now of completing this phase, so listen extremely carefully. DPSs straight away stand northeast. That's because the blue clouds most likely spawn to the northeast. Bomb tank opposite southwest side. Melee base tank, it doesn't matter, make sure you're dual wielded. At the start of phase 3, make sure the Mage Bomb Tank vokes Vorago onto him or her. Now Vorago will not be focused on the base tank, and that player can purely focus on DPS. Make sure to pump up your adrenaline at this point to 100%. Vorago unleashes blue clouds. Make sure 5 players run over to these clouds to make sure all spawn points are covered, as you can see here, being carried out perfectly by my team. At least one person needs to be at the end of the trail to stop one from spawning, the rest 1 to 3 steps behind that person. After the first blue clouds, as you saw me there, the melee base tank needs to use Berserk, an ultimate ability, as your aim is to deal as much DPS at the beginning of this phase. Okay, now this is hard to understand, so I'm going to slow it right down. I'm literally going to go right back through the start of phase 3 again, so you can get to grips with exactly what I'm talking about. So at the start of phase 3, make sure you as the melee base tank are dual wielded. If you're DPS, make sure you're all on each other northeast. The reason for that is because the Vitalis spawn northeast at the beginning, most likely. The bomb tank, as you can see, is just away from Vorago, taking the blue magic balls. There will be a reflect after the first blue clouds, as you can see here. Then after the second blue clouds, that's when the vocoder starts to begin. So make sure as the melee base tank, your max 100% adrenaline, use Berserk. You can then actually maximum DPS whilst Vorago unleashes the second lot of clouds, where your teammates will go over them. At least 4 is required, minimum, to actually stop 4 Vitalis from spawning. Now, after the second blue clouds, you'll see the Mage Bomb Tank come in towards Vorago within melee distance. Now, he will take the first and second voke. He will use, the preference here, by the way, is if you're the Mage Bomb Tank to use Escape, so you can actually back away a lot quicker after the second voke. Now, the voke order does mess up a tiny little bit here, because the Mage Bomb Tank was supposed to take 2, the second person's supposed to take 2, and then the third person's supposed to take 1. Right? That's the way you can do it. The other 2 vokers need to be within melee distance as well, so Vorago doesn't move. However, if he does move like this, don't worry. It doesn't really have a huge impact. Now, I say the team here, I take the last voke, and you'll see me doing something very unique here. I actually start walking Vorago. Now, once the vokes are finished, as the melee beast tank, as you saw me there, you want to toggle your run onto walk, and you want to click on the minimap against Vorago so you can walk into him. That will actually push Vorago backwards. Now, if you do this, then it actually prevents him from spawning the third blue cloud sooner than what he actually does here. Now, by which time your team should be DPSing like crazy to reduce his life points, as you can see here, speeding up the phase and actually completing it. If you are a DPS, make sure you're sunshining or using Metamorphosis at this point, using your adrenaline pots. If you're the base tank, you can also use Barricade if you have 100% adrenaline, and this will prevent you from receiving damage for 10 seconds. Also, you want to use Anticipation preferably, if you're the melee base tank when walking Vorago there, as it prevents you from being stunned so you can carry on taking him for walkies. Also, one final note, make sure you are overloaded. I have noticed in this footage I didn't overload in phase 3, so just make sure you're overloaded. Small little hiccup there, but as you can understand, it's more about the mechanics, this guide, so make sure you're overloaded to DPS in phase 3. It did run out halfway. If this is done perfectly, phase 3 will be completed. Onwards to phase 4. Okay, so after the first waterfall on phase 4, DPSs stand northeast again for the blue clouds. Bomb tank, other side, melee base tank doesn't matter again, but with a shield on. The tank vokes after the waterfall straight away. The reason for this is it actually prevents minions spawning on the tank. So that's a huge trivia tip there for anyone who's bomb tanking. Base tank then vokes when the minions actually spawn initially. Phase 4 is extremely simple again, however you do have the blue clouds and the Vitalis to actually think about. However, again, don't worry about that. Just concentrate about the voking order. Make sure you're getting that correct. Again, the base tank should be taking 1 and 2, and then there should be 2 other vokers who take the 3 and 4 and the 5th voke. For the base tank then to voke straight away back on them. It's definitely your responsibility as the melee base tank to get Vorago back on you, otherwise the mages will get slaughtered if they're not praying melee protect. Now, after the voking order, it's usually around 3 to 5 hits, 3 or 4 hits, ability hits by the way, until Vorago uses reflex. So there's another little tip. That's when he actually uses reflex, so you can actually time it correctly. After the reflect, there's no point even hitting him because a waterfall will spawn, and that is how it actually works. More in-depth guidance on phase 4 is on my previous guides as well. As the melee base tank as well, it's helpful to use escape from that corner, so you can get directly right in front of Vorago again, voke him back onto you after the tank has and once the minions are spawned. Okay guys, I'm just going to speed up this phase now, and I'll walk you through exactly what's going on. So again, when the blue clouds spawn, you want at least 4 DPSs to go over the Vitalis. As you saw there as well, I actually healed everybody. If you're going to heal when you're a melee base tank, as I've gone through previously, then you want to use barricade first so you don't get damaged, and then you can actually use the heal other from your ability bar on each DPS and also the bomb tank. Now make sure the Voc order is exactly the same. The difference here on phase 4, big tip, is that after the second waterfall, and whilst the Voking is carrying on, you want to get Vorago right down to a minimum of 13k life points. If you get him below 13k, that will happen, whereas life points will boost back up to 75k. This will actually slow down the phase due to after this final waterfall, once it's actually released, the waterfall, and you can go back and attack Vorago, you can actually get Vorago down before the 2 minions spawn. Now this is vital because when the minions spawn, as you would have saw previously to this on the footage, damage is reduced heavily, okay? You can only damage like 200s rather than the 4Ks. If this does happen, guys, by the way, it's not the end of the world. If you have an experienced base tank who can actually walk Vorago, as you saw there, then you can actually walk Vorago before the minions spawn. However, mistake made. I did not use anticipation. That is a really good footage there to actually show you guys exactly what happens if you don't use anticipation when you're trying to walk Vorago. Basically, he stuns you and it prevents you from walking him any further, and therefore the minions will spawn and the phase will drag out a bit longer. At least this actually gives me a bit more time to talk to you guys and allow the kill to go smoothly. So as you saw there, we do finally take him down. It does turn into Vitalis Armageddon here, where they literally are invading and trying to absolutely annihilate us, but they don't manage to, so that's quite good. Now on to phase 5. As you saw there, by the way, we did ignore the Vitalis at that point at the end. That was due to there was no point in actually running over because we would have lost time on DPS, so we just wanted to DPS Vorago down before the Vogue started. So as you go into phase 5, everyone should be aiming to have higher adrenaline, preferably 100%. when going into phase 5. Now, I do understand throughout this guide, I have said at times, watch my previous Virago guides, and that is for the main reason that this is just built up over time, giving you extra tips along the way. So if you watch each of my guides, you'll pick up on different tips which haven't been in others. And the reason for that is that, well, throughout my Virago career, I've learnt more, but it's mainly due to me wanting to spread out the knowledge, because different tips link to different rotations a bit better. However, phase 5, my last rotation on Scopulus, I went through a full in-depth walkthrough on how to max melee DPS on phase 5 with dual Drygors and Ring of Vigors required, okay, and Adrenaline Potion. So I actually went through exactly what you need to do in order to maximum melee DPS. So please, I encourage you to watch that if you want to know how to increase your damage per second in this phase. Again, I'll put annotations at the end of this video. I'm just going to let you now chillax, sit back, and just watch the remaining of this phase 5. This is actually, I don't know, we got very lucky here with our hits, achieving the fastest phase 5 I've seen in a while on this rotation, in a very long time, where everybody gets only around 3 to 6k experience drop, and that's purely due to the speed it was completed. Hope you enjoy it. A final thanks for watching, and thanks for everybody who's actually watched all of my guides. I really appreciate the support. Hit the like button. It does take a lot of effort and time to make these guides. Sit back again, chill out, and enjoy the rest of this kill. I'll see you in the next video.